to my lieutenant, and then we'll introduce a couple of that gentleman in the back as well.
Okay, Lieutenant Dorothy Kim, and I'm the Ops Lieutenant for Southwest Precinct.
I'm Jennifer. I'm the Crime Prevention Coordinator for the Southwest Precinct. Gentleman in the back, would you mind taking a step and introduce yourself, please?
I'm Officer Brent Moore, and I work third watch. Supposed to be a roll call, but they said there was a meeting. And I'm on duty now until 4 in the morning. That's our third watch.
Thank you, Officer Brent, for being here. We appreciate that. Can I have Joe introduce himself as well? I just sat down, but can I have you introduce yourself, please?
Of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Everett. I'm an assistant city attorney at the city attorney's office. My title is liaison attorney. I'm a liaison to the Seattle Police Department, specifically the Southwest Precinct. So my office is just right upstairs. And I just want to share Jennifer's excitement. It feels really good to have this room humming again. It's really good. So welcome, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. May I please introduce our new chairperson for the Southwest Crime Prevention Council?
Melody Sarkis.
Melody is very excited taking over this meeting. We're very excited. Thank you very much. We're excited for the changes that this council will have in the meetings to come. And again, I appreciate everybody being here. So, before we get to our main agenda, just want to do a couple housekeeping items. Right outside this door, there are restrooms, both men and women, and we will try to keep to our agenda pretty closely this evening. With that, I will pass it to our first agenda item, Operations Lieutenant Kim, to give us a precinct update on kind of what's going on in the Southwest Precinct, and then we will get to our other guest speakers this evening.
And I know you guys are all here for Ann, because it's really fun to work with the new city attorney, so it's pretty neat. So I'm Dorothy Kim, and I'm an Ops Lieutenant here at the Southwest Precinct. I've been with SPD for 27 years, and 10 of those years I was spent here as an officer, working the day shift, and I also am a resident of West Seattle, so I'm very committed to this precinct, and you know, I have a 14-year-old son who's here and went to the school in Delridge, and so you know, lots of investment in this community. My husband grew up here in West Seattle, went to Arbor Heights Elementary, and so when we got together, he was like, we can only live in West Seattle, and I always lived in the north end. I was like, West Seattle, it's like the Boondocks, who lives over there? And then he convinced me, and so now we've lived here for 25 years, and it's been the best thing. I love it over here. It's like a small town, but yet you're so close to downtown, and it's great. And now that the bridge is open, that is like a game changer again. I had a friend who had surgery, and so I ran out of milk to her, and she lives in North Seattle, like Greenwood area. 15 minutes. It was wonderful. So anyway, so the precinct updates. So our captain is Captain Rivera, who has also been with the department for about 22 years. And you know, he's a great person to work for, and he's very responsive. I know a lot of you guys have emailed us, and he is always really good about responding back and trying to give answers to any questions you have, and you know, follow up with things. Let's see, some of the things that we have been working on right now is some of the Alki and Harbor Avenue homeless encampment issues, and also the 2nd and Michigan big encampment there. And I actually have some news on that. Don't take this to the, well, we're in the West Seattle blog, aren't we? So there is, we actually have some firm dates coming up about to start the cleanup, and it will be a process, obviously, and we're really fortunate that because a lot of the property is Washington State, which has been an issue in lots of parts of the city about dealing with some homeless encampments because of multi-jurisdictional issues. So WADOT is on board with us, and also the State Patrol is on board with us, and so we have some concrete dates set up, and hopefully.
That's the one under First Avenue Bridge.
Yeah, and it's actually, I would say that the majority of stuff there is not a homeless encampment. There's not a lot of people living there. It's probably, I would say, less than 20. What a lot of it is criminal enterprise. And we all know intuitively what's going on, right? But to actually be able to make arrests and do prosecutions and everything would be really labor intensive, and with the staffing issues Seattle has right now. We couldn't put the resources into it. And I think we just all on the same plate just said, you know, let's just clean it up and see what we can do from there. Because now it's just so mammoth, and you know, to make arrests out of there, we would have to have an undercover operation, have, you know, somebody undercover in there. It would be really labor intensive and not fast. It would take, you know, a year, you know, to get something like that going. So hopefully that will go forward. So part of the homeless, and so I don't know how much people are interested in the homeless encampment issues. I do have to say that although it's very bureaucratic right now, Seattle does have a process which is a lot more than other big cities. I was talking to a colleague in Kansas City, and which I didn't even know there would be a homeless population there. They do have some big homeless encampments there, and they have no plan. And at least we do have a plan. It's very bureaucratic, but it's a plan. So with homeless encampments, when you if you do a Find It, Fix It, go to the app and do it, and as you start putting those items in, it goes to this big data sheet, like a spreadsheet, and then it gets assigned a value. So if it's on Parks Department, if it's city right-of-way that's blocking the sidewalk, or handicapped access, or any schools, it's gonna get a higher priority to be cleaned up. And then if there's any crimes associated with it, or health and safety issues, that also gives it a couple extra points and it pushes it up. And it's all on a point system, so the higher the points are, then they're gonna get more, higher up on the list for the removables, I guess. So, and then in every homeless encampment that does get removed, first there is the Unified Care Team that goes out and actually does outreach and services and offers services. So every person gets offered some sort of service, whether or not it's the service they want or would prefer or not, but that is part of the whole process. So people go out, offer services, and then the Unified Care Team, along with this multidisciplinary group, will identify what resources the group needs to clear the encampment. Because a lot of them will be bigger structures, lots of trash, and so they oftentimes will need heavy equipment. So, and that group meets weekly with each of the precinct representatives, along with SDOT, Parks Department, City Light. So all the major players are there and trying to work together to at least have a process going forward. Let's see, the other thing that during the summer, we do an Al-Qaeda emphasis, and so that's officers that are on overtime that do emphasis patrols down there. Generally speaking, after the summer's over, we move that emphasis patrol up to Westwood Village, and so that's what we've done. So we're spending our emphasis patrols at Westwood Village, and this year we actually looked at data from the last 2 years to determine when to put out officers. So we're trying to use the data when the most calls for service are there to put out officers there. And that's working pretty well. They have a new property management company that's really responsive to law enforcement and also want to work with us, and they've done like a whole new camera system and is willing to share that footage with us, and so that's really positive. And we're also working on Rite Aid Loss Prevention has reached out to us and wanting to do some more directed shoplifting emphasis patrols there, and we're working out a way that we're able to arrest people there. Let's see. Do you want me to pause for questions, or should I just?
We're gonna do question after both speakers, for both speakers. So
How am I on?
got about 3 more minutes.
3 more
on
minutes,
speakers.
okay. What else can I talk about? So,
Any updates on staffing, perhaps?
now staffing it's challenging. And actually I think there's 10 new recruits that are coming out, but 10 new recruits split throughout the whole 5 precincts, 3 watches. I would be surprised if we actually get anyone from that group. Luckily for us though, we generally have a long list of officers wanting to come to this precinct. So that's good, so we generally can pick, you know, like officers that are hard workers, good employees, and so we normally get a pretty good group here. And I would say that, you know, Southwest Precinct does have a really good core group of officers that work here and work really hard and really care about the community. What did you say? Oh, staffing. So right now, we're augmenting, so augmenting means people are working double shifts. And, you know, we're not allowed to force people, so there's no mandatory overtime, so this is all on a volunteer basis. And luckily here, we are able to fill most of our augmenting positions to go up to our minimum staffing. Like each precinct has a minimum amount of officers that we want working for everyone to be safe and be able to answer 911 calls. And so generally, we're able to fill those, but it also means that there's lots of officers, like Officer Moore that was in here, he does this pretty frequently too, working double shifts. So he's a third watch officer, but he'll come in at 11 a.m. and work until 4 a.m. the next morning. So, yeah. So, and then there's a lot of people that work the first watch, which means they come in at 3 a.m. and then they'll tag on the second watch and work until 8 p.m. So, at some point, I mean, that's not sustainable, and, you know, so, you know, as these guys have known or heard me say, that a lot of some of the issues that we deal with, we're gonna have to look for a different resource other than Seattle Police, like some of the traffic calming devices, because like right now, we don't have a traffic unit basically anymore. We used to have two squads in cars that were AM and PM and do traffic enforcement. That squad is gone. And all we have is one motorcycle squad, and they're generally gonna be tasked with the big events downtown doing traffic control. So I don't, even just a few years ago, driving up Admiral, you would only see a motorcycle officer doing traffic control, and that's just unlikely to happen in the near future, so.
I think that's a great update.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Lieutenant.